welcome to the Power Platform Show. In this episode today, we're going to talk with Eric McKinney, fantastic Power App champ in the community. His story is so interesting. One of the longest stories of getting on the Power Platform, particularly around Power Apps, since 2016. Incredible journey, sits squarely in IT and really is an inspiration, I feel, to a lot of IT departments. He covers a lot of ground in this podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Lots of shout outs to various other people in the community. So yeah, join me and I hope you really enjoy this show. But before we get started with it, I just want to talk about a company I work with called MapTasker. They're a geospatial ISV, so when you hear the word geospatial, you think of maps, but MapTasker is more about mapping visualization tools. So it enables both field and office staff to collaborate effectively through the means of maps with their field sales for Dynamics 365 and field engineer for Dynamics 365 products. Any business running a field-based team would benefit from better collaboration between field and office staff, and MapTasker helps organizations increase productivity while reducing operational costs. If you're ready to embrace the power of geospatial intelligence, MapTasker has use cases from large government and corporate organizations right through to small SMEs and charities. So get in touch with them today at maptasker.com. Full show notes for this episode can be found at nz365guy.com/172. Now, let's get on with the show. Hey, Eric, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Appreciate you having me.
Mate, it's good to have you on here. We're recording today pretty much just before Thanksgiving. I take it you're getting ready for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm off this week from work. Obviously, I can spend time with you, but also time with my family, but catching up on some things that I need to get done that I haven't been able to do throughout the year, traveling around, and it's been quite a busy year. So yeah.
Yeah. So I'm keen to unpack that year. But before we get started, tell us a bit about yourself. Like, where in the world do you hail from? Where do you call home? Is it where you live now? And what do you do with your family?
Yeah, so right now, Mark, I live in Columbus, Ohio, or the Columbus metro area. So for those who aren't familiar, it's dead center of Ohio between going east to west, basically Pittsburgh and Indianapolis. If you're going north to south, northeast to southwest, it's between Cleveland and Cincinnati. But I live on the southeast side of Columbus, town called Pickerington, city called Pickerington. But I'm originally from southeast Ohio, so coal country, right on the edge of Appalachia, a little town called Cumberland. It's famous for a couple things. Famous for the Big Muskie. If you use the Google machine, type in the Big Muskie, you'll see it was like one of the world's largest earth-moving pieces of equipment. And then now it's home to North America's largest wildlife conservation. It's the place called the Wilds, and they have all kinds of animals from all over the world now. You can go on these safaris. It's really, really great. So not a big town, but known for quite a bit. So
wow, that Big Muskie, the largest walking drag line ever built. Eh?
Yeah, it's quite impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was that? Was it like an open cast mining type setup?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's a huge coal country where I came from. A lot of it's since been shut down. It was like high sulfur coal. So it's not an active like coal area anymore, but you see a lot of natural gas now and a lot of oil. It's kind of a big fracking area that you're starting to see boom up there. So, but in terms of when I grew up, I mean, it was all the rage. There was earth moving vehicles all over the place. I mean, I remember cracks in my grandparents' house, 4 or 5 years old, from where you would actually feel the shattering from where they, detonate from around there and then break all that up, and then they go and mine all that and pull it out. But yeah, it's my family. I had family members that were coal miners. My grandfather was a coal miner. Now he's just a farmer now. So, just a really unique area to come from and grow up in, and then land, in a technology field coming from such a small town. I didn't even have high speed internet until I was like in high school. I think I don't even think it was all dial up until then. And then, moved to Columbus, and then I get, high speed internet. Just incredible. So
So what do you do when you're not working?
when I'm not working, I love to run. I'm a huge runner. My wife was a huge runner. She was a cross country coach, ran in high school, and really got me into running later in life. I hated it, just being up front. I hated it going through, high school and early 20s, and then just really caught on in my 30s and fell in love with it. And I do a lot of running. I just completed a 25K marathon, a trail marathon in Youngstown, Ohio, so Northeast Ohio. I've done a 50K, so I consider an ultra marathon. I've done a
Wow, yeah.
full marathon, 26.2, done a 25K. I've done a handful of half marathons and then, 5Ks, out the wazoo, so on and so forth. So I'm a big runner, work out quite a bit. I eat terrible, so I don't really reap all the benefits of all that effort that I put into it. But I love golf. I love spending. My boys are big. I got two boys, a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. They're big into sports. We go to a lot of sporting events. They play baseball. They play basketball. They love, playing football out in the front yard. And of course, as my Twitter handle kind of gives it away, I'm a huge NFL fan. Browns, Cleveland Browns in particular. I'm a Cleveland sports guy, so I'm going to a lot of sporting events. And you know what? I love, spending time with my wife and trying new restaurants and just going out and trying new experiences and traveling too. Haven't traveled internationally, but I've traveled interesting. I've driven coast to coast. I think done it 3 or 4 times, putting it not consecutively, but I've driven out west and been to a number of places. So I love to travel. And believe it or not, I'm a big road trip junkie.
Wow, wow. Do you have like a specific type of vehicle that you prefer to do it in?
No, we just drive whatever we currently have. So right now we just got, like a Honda Pilot or anything. I mean, if I was gonna do it, I would do it like I'd rent a Sprinter van. I'm not one of these big, pulling a camper type
Yeah,
vehicles,
yeah, yeah.
I'd love to do an all-in-one camper, but like not pulling behind a truck. I'd love to just do one of the all-in-ones or like something like a Sprinter van, where it's comfortable, a little bit bigger. But you know what? Last time we did it, we have a, was it 6-seat Honda Passenger with the entertainment package, and we throw a couple movies on, and the boys they have a ball. So yeah, it works out well for as much as we travel.
Very cool, very cool. So, how did you get into the whole Microsoft space?
Wow, so that goes back. I'm probably showing my age a little bit, but that goes back into kind of my support days, all the way back, going 20 years ago, all the way into Windows. What was it? XP, Windows 2000, Windows, NT, XP era, starting in support, and then you're getting into Windows Server administration, Exchange. I think you're going into Exchange 2003 era, Windows, file server, Windows Server 2003 era. So that goes all the way back, believe it or not, it's almost 20 years ago now, which is crazy. And really just kind of in the system administration, and then that kind of morphed into from support into working on projects. And then about 8 years ago, we really at G&J Pepsi, we really dipped our toes into the Microsoft cloud stack, moving our workloads to Office 365, and our first workload being email, so moving to Exchange Online. And then we just kept moving workloads, right? It just morphed into SharePoint Online, OneDrive, you name it, Yammer. And then next thing you know, we're working with Intune and doing mobility through there. And then next thing you know, we're doing Azure and migrating, lifting and shifting our workloads to Azure and their platform offerings. So really, it's been kind of a whirlwind, 7, 8 years of moving solely to the Microsoft stack. I mean, you guess you could say we're kind of drinking the Microsoft Kool-Aid, really, when you bolt on the Power Platform and the work that we've done there. Everything but Dynamics 365, surprisingly enough. But I think that's going to change somewhat soon, and we've got plans to look at doing that next year. So.
Okay, okay. So your role, inside the organization, would you say that clearly sat within the IT department, your administrator, infrastructure, that type of thing?
Yeah, so my role currently is within the digital technology space or traditional IT space, right? And I know in your kind of previous guests and the work that you do, a lot of it's been, citizen developers that have been here. It's kind of probably a little bit different having somebody from IT in here. But yeah, my space really is right now I manage a team of 6 people, and I have responsibilities over support all of our cloud platforms, so all the previously mentioned cloud platforms, and then some others that support our business. I have cybersecurity, and then I'm responsible for innovation. So I grew up in that IT space or digital technology space, and now I manage a team in that digital technology space. So yeah, absolutely. My role is solely focused on IT and delivering those IT solutions.
Wow, wow. Okay, so this is interesting because, I've even come out quite hard against folks in the IT department. And, my background is very heavily IT, but over my journey, over my career of over 20 years, I've noticed that, IT departments were often made up of a certain type of individual. They often made other people in the organization feel a little inferior, especially if they had a problem that IT quickly fixed and then said, oh, can you try that again? And then it was solved. And I also noticed this kind of resistance from IT to adopt new technologies. And I've always felt because they had to learn something new, and a lot of folks in IT have been there for a long time. They're hanging out for their, redundancy check and retirement. So you come from this particular group, and that's why I find this is going to be quite an interesting show, because you've really decided to take your organization forward from an innovation perspective. What motivates you in that respect?
Wow, there's a lot here to unpack, Mark. So
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
buckle up. Yeah, hopefully you got enough time. So a lot of it's driven from necessity. So at G&J Pepsi, I'll start with the kind of from G&J Pepsi's perspective, right? So we are and I'll back up a little bit to give some context.
Yeah, yeah, good.
G&J Pepsi is a franchise bottler. So yes, we carry that big Pepsi name, but we have a franchise that's in central and southern Ohio, southwestern Ohio, surrounding Cincinnati, and then going down into eastern Kentucky. So in and around the Lexington area, going over to the West Virginia border. So a lot of it is, like I said previously, driven from necessity. We didn't have a large team, right, to start with. So our team wore a lot of hats, right? We didn't have a whole team dedicated to just cloud platforms and a whole team dedicated to server infrastructure and a team to support and a team to network, right? We had to wear many hats, and when you have to deliver the level of services that our organization demands. Half of our 1,600 employees are outside of our four walls servicing our customers at grocery stores and supermarkets and gas stations, right? And other restaurants. So to deliver the services that they demand, plus manage all of that back end infrastructure, right? And then we have to do it with a very small team. A lot of that has been driven by necessity. We realized that we couldn't keep up with a lot of the efforts that come with managing your legacy IT infrastructure, which is power, cooling. You got to have storage, you got to have networks, and then you have to manage and you have to maintain, you have to update, you have to, all of that comes with it, right? So a lot of that was just driven from, hey, why don't we lift? And I've got a great team. Dan Foster, Nathan Foster, that have been with me, 15 years. We lifted and shifted, recognized this along with the business, recognized this, got support from our leadership that we needed to migrate these services to the cloud. And then we needed to consume and take those services to our business and really focus on driving adoption, focus on how these tools can better our business, how these tools and services can better our business, and how can we leverage the investments that we've made to drive that incremental value into our business and give our user base, our employees, our customers, right? These are our customers.
Exactly.
Give them the tools they need to succeed in doing their job, but ultimately help G&J Pepsi win in the marketplace against. There's a pretty popular. I'm not going to say their name, but there's a pretty popular competitor out there that we're up against. There's a couple of them, and the industry is starting to also get a little bit fragmented. Our customers are moving into areas or choices. They're looking for disparate choices now, and the market's starting to become fragmented. We're carrying more SKUs. So, how can we help G&J compete and win in that marketplace? And it's not about protecting our fiefdoms. It's not about protecting, us. And, Samir, who you've had on previously, I love Samir. He'll tell you, it's not about us, hugging our servers and saying, I'm not letting go. It's about us also, as the business has shifted and the technology has shifted, we've had to shift our skill set, right, to match what the businesses need. And, for those, maybe there's some IT individuals that are listening to this call, for those that listen to it. And I know early on, one of the popular myths was when you move to the cloud, right? You shift your workloads. You run out of things to do. What am I going to do, right? If I'm not patching and maintaining and backing up and power and cooling and all the things that go with this, what am I doing? I can tell you that we have never been busier within our department after, because you think about Microsoft in particular, but you think about what these software as a service providers are doing, right? It is incremental value. All of them are working in some agile framework, right? Where they're continuously delivering incremental value. There's always changes to whatever platforms you're using. You got to keep up. And they're all pieces of value that you have to decide and we have to filter. Does that make sense for our business? And that's where we spend a lot of our time is, do these updates make sense for our business, and how do they leverage them?
Yeah. What was your big deciding factor in going Microsoft Techwise in the early days?
Yeah, so the early days, and again, like I said, I won't deny that, some of us will drink the Kool-Aid, but when you look at who does it across all areas of the IT space, right? The collaborative productivity space with Office 365, right? You've got the mobility and identity space with enterprise mobility with Intune and Azure Active Directory. You look at Azure, which is the world's data center, and it has everything you could ever imagine, from BI to AI to machine learning to infrastructure as a service, platforms as a service, anything you could want to consume. And then you look at what the Power Platform now brings and Dynamics bring. Who does that consistently across the board, right, Mark? And then that all integrates, right? So you start to, and again, I know this may be not a popular opinion across the board with some of my IT friends out there, pure IT friends, right? But if you take a Google and you got to pair it with an AWS, and then you have to pair it with a Salesforce, right? How much time do you spend bolting all of that together, as opposed to having native out of box integrations, which allow you to build and deliver your solutions to your business much quicker? Because at the end of the day, that's really why I exist. I exist to help G&J, or we exist, not I, but we exist to help G&J leverage its technology investments and provide value to its customers and consumers at the end of the day. And that's why we're here. So nobody, to answer your question more poignantly, Mark, in our opinion, nobody across the board is the number one, number two, number three player in all of those spaces. And that integration allows us to move fast. It allows us to move far and go, the distance that we have with the team that we have.
It's so true, but it's so good to hear from your perspective. Tell me, we hear a lot about digital transformation, and when you look at particularly the more recent time journey, so where you've, maybe it's, I don't know how long it's been, you can tell us it, but where you've really got onto the Power Platform, and maybe even starting with your SharePoint Online. How much does that feature in your landscape? How much do you look for manual based processes across your organization, or what I call clipboard type processes where someone needs to just fill out a form and get it signed and move it around? How much of that has been a driver of bringing you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I'll back up quite a bit in that journey, right? And it goes along with the timeline that we've had where we've migrated a lot of our services to the cloud that we've leveraged, because we haven't had what I'll call a common data system, like a CRM, right? Like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah.
CEM, like a Dynamics 365. So we have really surrounded that. And going all the way back before our cloud migration, there was a lot of paper-based processes, right? So we have merchandisers going out into the trade. We have drivers going out into the trade, dropping off product. Like I said, half of our workforce is out there. So how do we deliver those services? And previously, it was all paper based, right? These guys would come into the office, they'd pick up their schedules for the day, or they'd pick up where they had to go and what was on their manifests, and what, just any number of things that were paper based. Fill out, mileage forms, you name it, right? What we really did was, when we migrated to the cloud, leveraging, and it was very simple, just leveraging SharePoint Online with OneNote. And what we did was, we went from having really our services delivered to, Mark, I'd say 400 back office users 7 years ago, to where now every employee has an identity, right, within G&J, a corporate identity, access to SharePoint and email, including those half users that also have a mobile phone, right? So now they have access to SharePoint. What we did was, and it was very simplistic in nature, we just set up OneNote notebooks, right? And then we just had individuals that are in the back office just feeding OneNote notebooks, and it seems rudimentary, but it works, and it has worked for some time. That they would put in their ad alerts and what was on sale for the week, and they would have these notebooks by store that we would go through, and our merchandisers and drivers would access these notebooks, and they would be able to access information in the trade. Then you start to say, okay, well, hey, we went from a paper-based process, right, to some sort of digital process to we're outgrow. This is not what it was intended. Like OneNote was not intended to be our CRM, obviously. So we go into we're still not ready for dynamics, but we start to recognize that the data that is on there isn't structured. We're not mining information out of it because guys were doing things like business reviews on it, right? They're looking at how many cases they're counting, who's kind of winning and losing in the store, and that really led to the next evolution, which is the Power Platform, our first Power Apps app, which was back in 2016. So we go from being in beta with Power Apps to wrapping the now famous, it's everywhere store audit app that we built, and we wrap that process of auditing stores around the Power App, completely change the game. We mine all of that data, right? So we start inputting it into a structured format. We create almost a feedback loop in which we are, our managers are out and they're leaving follow-ups for our frontline salespeople. Hey, your price tag is wrong, or you got the wrong products on the shelf or the wrong products on display. They're getting automatically notified through Flow, at the time Flow, now Power Automate, right? They're getting an automated notification. It shows up in the app. They close that out. They go and fix the problem. They close that out. The originator then gets an automated email back that says, hey, this has been closed out. So they close that feedback loop, right? And that was one of the big challenges we had was, hey, guys would come in when we were building the application, say, I send these emails of these follow-ups, I never hear anything, right? It goes somewhere, but I don't hear anything back. So they have to continuously follow up. So we built in that data, that process. We could then report on it in Power BI, almost metrics around when I submit a follow-up for today, say, Mark, that needs to be done by tomorrow, and you close it today. I can put in the time between when I put it in, when it was closed. Was it closed on time? Is it closed late? And now we're reporting on percentages of when guys and girls, our sales folks, are going out and closing all that. So completely changing the game in the way we think about going and attacking these processes, right? And attacking how we serve our customers and actually wrapping metrics around things that we couldn't even do before, right? So that happened in summer of 2016, fall of 2016. And the story has been told, and this is true. We went live with our first application when they came out for GA. We were leveraging, CDS at the time. We had built the application, all that we had built. So if you understand the challenges back then, you couldn't tie Power BI directly into CDS at the time. So we built a flow to flow it over to Azure SQL, and then we tapped Power BI off of Azure SQL, and then we were able to kind of cobble together this solution, combining all three components of the Power Platform 3 years ago. And I think, if you look at the Champ card that's out there, we have fun with it. Those guys, we have a good time. I got the funny face and everything, and it puts on their patient zero. And it's because I think, I happened to, and I'll tell you this story briefly. I ran into Samir, and it'll kind of tie this all together. I ran into Samir by happenstance. I was on one of my road trips, drove out to Seattle. It was the Data Insights Conference. Do you remember before MBAS?
Yep.
It was Data Insights. It was in Seattle in summer of 2017. I go there, and so we're now out of 2016. I go there in 2017. It was just completely happenstance. I was going to visit family they live down in the Gorge, down in Oregon. And I was like, hey, I told my wife, I'm going to go to this. I think we should go there. Let's get a couple days. It just happened to coincide. And I was doing those user research feedback forums, and they said, hey, if you're going to be here, we'd love to meet you in person. So I go to this, walk into this room, and Samir's sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
So he's sitting in there and he's working as a consultant at this time. And there's some other people doing some research. So I sit down, he's like, tell me about what you're doing, what your journey is. And he says, I said, you know what? Hey, how about I just show you, right? I had my laptop with me. So I pull up the solution and I pull up the flows and then I pull up what we had done in Power BI. And this is May, June of 2017. And he's like, so you built all of this? And I said, yeah, me and Dan Foster at the time had collaborated. He built a lot of the data piece. I built a lot of the front end Power Apps piece. And he's just head down, just pecking away on his keyboard. And within 15 minutes, we have 10 people surrounding us, asking all these questions. And then the journey just kind of explodes from there. And now we got champ cards and posters and all kinds of stuff. But back to your question, or back to the original story, which was, we move into Power Apps, and we've started to move out of, we're trying to move out of OneNote. We get to Power Apps. We realize now we've got the power platform in full force. We're Power BI heavy. It's everything in our organization from a data analytics standpoint. We're building all kinds of great applications. We're automating. And now we say, hey, wouldn't it be great if we tied all of this disparate data together and leveraged a common data platform and a common system? And that's where you're starting to see us look at inserting Dynamics 365 into that, and then start to leverage that as where our data resides, our key data, or our fact-based data, or systems of record, I guess is what you would call it now. And that being our systems of record, and transforming our business through that, and through field service, which we have a very legacy application. So we've kind of morphed through this paper to some sort of online offering, to Power Platform, now to Dynamics. And along that process, Mark, our IT organization, our legacy IT organization, has morphed in itself as well. So you have a team of 6, 7 individuals managing all of this, as soon or as early as a year, 2 years ago. And then we hired a new individual VP, Brian Balzer, who came in and has added business transformation and development into our organization. So now you have my channel that I'm responsible for, which is enterprise business systems. We have development, which is what Dan is over, and then we have business transformation team, which is all about lean Six Sigma, instituting agile, and really ensuring that our processes are buttoned up and we're solving the right problems before we even tackle the apply technology before that. And it's really been, it's really starting down as much as culture as it is right now is about applying that. And we're going through that in our organization, which has held on to our legacy IT for so long, right? And IT individuals are just, you're all one and the same, and we do this. And now you're starting to move into, we're putting business transformation. We're together. We're the digital technology and business transformation team at G&J Pepsi. So like I said, those processes need to be leaned out. We need to make sure we're solving the right problems, getting requirements from our customers on what they want to see, right? So these are product owners, Lean Six Sigma product owners that are bringing, the requirements and what our customers are looking for, and we're implementing now the solutions, and we're starting to hit our stride. We got a ways to go. We've only been in it for, I would say, about 6, 7 months. We got a ways to go, but once we get full force and everybody gets their feet under us, we're gonna really make a lot of progress, and even more so than we've done, with the talent that we have. And we've doubled in size in the past year. So the business is recognizing our contributions and what we've brought to the table, and in essence is saying, we want more from you, and we want to do it the right way and solve the right challenges and make sure we're tackling those.
So you went from 400 people to the all 1,600 up being on some type of device using the technology. What has been the feedback from those people that are now using apps rather than maybe even the OneNote or paper in the past? Has it changed their perception of their skill sets, of their who they are and the role they play in the company?
Yeah, so you're talking, so it depends on the kind of the level that you go to, right? And what's unique about G&J Pepsi is you have very frontline workers guys that have been here for 30. It's not unheard of in our organization for individuals. And it's what's one of the things that's great about G&J Pepsi is 25, 30, 40, 47 years, 40, 45, 50 years. People will spend 50 years at G&J Pepsi in a time when, individuals are bouncing around from job to job every couple years, right? So they have seen G&J go from being, and I'm probably joking half more than anything, go from being like this horse and buggy organization now to where we're out in the cloud and we're building applications and all this. I would say that it's a challenge and it depends on who you talk to. A lot of those individuals that have been around and been so loyal for so many years, it is tough for them to have this much technology thrown at them in such a short period of time. At the same time, you have our leadership that's saying, hey, we've got to compete, we've got to deliver these services to our individuals. So you've got two opposite ends of the spectrum, and our leadership is very technology focused. They support our organization in driving forward. So we're caught in the middle of how do we bring those individuals up to speed and drive adoption, and how do we continue to build their skill sets? Because again, and I don't want to stereotype or anything, Mark, but we're sitting on the edge of Appalachia, right? And a lot of it is, individuals that are coming, out of high school, they're going right to work for G&J Pepsi. Maybe they don't have those technology skills or didn't grow up with them. We've got to put programs in place, and we're working. We have a good HR department, especially our talent individuals who we have partnered with to drive a learning management system that is all based online. But it's not so much about devices, but it's about how we present it to them. So one of the things we do is we use Azure AD a ton to hook into these services, and it's something as simple as just not having to remember a password, Mark.
Exactly.
Just
Yep.
one, right? So they're not going out to Oracle for their, our human HCM or human capital management system and punching in a password. They're not going out to ADP punching in a password. They're not going to their benefits and punching in a password, right? And having to manage all of this. Azure AD brings in a really nice portal for them to leverage these software as a service offerings, and that makes it easier. We've got a number of, like I said, great training programs in place, and we're going through, and we're right in the middle, in my opinion, of going through that cultural and technology transformation at G&J, where we're putting technology in drivers' hands that have never had it before, and we're asking them to be and do XYZ tasks. Same with our managers. And I think there's initially some resistance, but I think it's starting to break down a little bit, and they're starting to recognize that, hey, this is going to help G&J, who's been around for 100 years, move forward and be around for another 100 years, right? We have to compete in that marketplace that is, like I said, it's ultra competitive. You have a couple really big name competitors, and once we get right now, the challenge that we have is that we still have disparate data sources. So one of the great things is that you have all these tools, right? You have SharePoint, you have OneDrive, and you have OneNote, and you have Yammer, and you have Power Apps, and you have Power BI, and you have all in Yammer, Teams, and Skype for Business, right? The problem is, the good thing is you got all these tools. The bad thing is you got all these tools. So
Yeah.
where do
Which
you
one do you
go?
use?
Yeah, so and that's on top of our ordering platform like that we use to manage all of our route accounts. So that's where you're starting to see us say we got too many places to go to get information. We've delivered the tools, we're delivering the information, but we're not delivering it in an easy fashion. And that's where you're starting to see the conversation around dynamics, bringing it into one place for our individuals, to our frontline workers and our sales folks, giving them one place to go to get all of this information. And ultimately, what does that do? That serves our customers and our consumers better. And that's really what we're focused on right now. So to answer your question, meeting some initial resistance, we're starting to break down those walls. We're on this journey, and we're getting better all the time, and we're starting to recognize what challenges do we have to tackle next in order to solve that question of how are they receiving that technology.
So apps and flows, and Power Automate, how many do you think you've got live now that are in production that make up your business?
Oh, wow. So since we went alive in 2016, so just pure applications, we have, I would say we're roughly pushing 25 applications. But our application, I don't know how some of the other organizations that have like thousands of applications, Mark, it doesn't seem like it's a huge number, but we put modules. We kind of adopted a strategy early on of one, like keep the app focus very narrow, but we continue to bolt on. So like store audit, for example, it's not even store audit anymore. It can do so many different functions inside of it. You could almost break it out into, 8, 9, or 10 applications because we don't break out an application for every module that we build into it. So we got roughly 25 applications and we're growing. It seems like every couple months we're adding a new application. That's what the development team is primarily focused on. We've got flows. We've got I would say well over 100 production flows and logic apps that we're currently using that's doing everything from our user lifecycle management and integrating with Oracle HCM, where we're pulling new users or new hires in, change hires, terminations, to sending out recaps of follow-ups, to safety training reminders, you name it. It's doing all of these functions across the board, and there's just more and more ask for it. And I would say there's more asks for automation and learning flow than we're getting around or Power Automate than we are applications. And then of course, like I said, Power BI is our default reporting engine, and we drove adoption of that to 2-3 years ago, and that's where all of our reporting comes from. So it's making a tremendous impact on our business, and it's growing every day. So much so that we wrapped a whole department. Our development department is wrapped around the Power Platform. That is at its core.
So just give me an idea. Power BI, kind of who are the main roles in your organization that are consuming those dashboards or reports?
So everybody from our frontline sales individuals that are meeting with our customers every day, Mark, to our accounting group, to our HR, all of our individuals in HR, operations, which comprises warehouse and production facilities. Our leadership obviously is consuming that. So I would say roughly half of our organization is leveraging Power BI in some form or fashion, and it's doing everything from sales reporting, like just pure BI, pure sales cases, revenue reporting, to our learning management system, which integrates tightly with the Power Platform. In fact, all of our learning, our required, safety training, for example, reporting on that throughout the day, to our production numbers, to cases, to delivery, integrating with our logistics and delivery system, to integrating with the applications that we are building, budget and modeling, our labor reporting. The list goes on, Mark. So it's touching 700, I would say roughly 700 to 800 individuals are leveraging Power BI in some form or fashion across our organization. And it's, like I said, it's growing every day.
Incredible. Have you seen, we've heard of the term citizen developer, and you've obviously driven it very much from IT. Are you starting to get any interest of, and I don't have a bead on the age demographic of your organization, but are you having any kind of interest, or are you creating an environment of any of interest, training, resourcing, that type of thing around frontline workers? And I know that's subjective, getting involved with you?
It's funny. We're actually not, is like, unlike I think some of your previous guests, like Keith, who I love, and Vivek and Summit and the others that have done it. And I love those guys, girls, and all the work that they've done. We haven't seen that as much. I will say that, one of the software developers that we have I would consider come from the citizen side. So he was a logistics analyst. His name's Matt Ralston, and he has a technical acumen, and just started picking it up, saw what we were doing, and was like, hey, how can I leverage that for my portion of the business, and develop some applications. And when we added the development and business transformation teams, we pulled him in, and he now works as a software developer. So I can't say that we don't have our own citizen developer story, but in terms of those, security guards or frontline drivers, we don't have any of those stories. We do have interest from the, I would say, the individuals in our organization that have strong technical acumen and have partnered with us in the past. And there's some individuals in HR that have a love affair with what the Power Platform is doing. There's some individuals in accounting and operations that have it and recognize its benefit. But it's not that we're not discouraging it. We encourage it and would love to coach and bring individuals along. We just aren't seeing that. And I think it's maybe due to the hustle that G&J has every day. And, we just haven't seen that groundswell up back to the IT department, to us, which is interesting because, when we first got into it, Mark, I thought, when I first saw this, I sat down and I was doing research, and really what drove this was we were doing a lot with InfoPath and trying to deliver these forms in mobile fashion, because we have to deliver these forms, or I'm sorry, we have to deliver these solutions to our mobile workforce, right? And we don't have professional developers, right? So you could say I'm in theory a citizen developer, an IT developer, but I sat down, did some research, and I come across this, said, I sat and looked at it. I said, this just makes absolute sense. And I begged in the summer of 2016 to get into the program. I had to go through a 3-hour interview.
No
And then they give
way.
me, 3-hour interview. Like, what was your intent of using this? How would you use it? Why? I remember going through it and I was like, look, you have to get us into this program. This makes sense. And it was like a week later, they were like, hey, congratulations, you're in. Here's 10,000 licenses. I was just like, I needed like 5. And they gave me
Yeah.
10,000. So just in case, we scaled. And so when I'm going through this and I'm looking, I'm like, this just makes absolute sense. I'm developing these applications in a rapid manner. I'm building once, I'm deploying to my desktop, I'm deploying to an Android phone, I'm deploying to iOS. It just all makes sense. So you fast forward, and I come to MBAS in 2018, summer of 2018. They is really when we sat down. Samir and Saurabh invited me out, and they're like, "Hey, come out. We're gonna tell stories and speak, and it's gonna be a good time. Why don't you come out?" So we're doing a pre-session on a Sunday before it, and I walk into the room, and I see Summit, who had, Summit and Komal. They had a big event with Satya the week before. So I kind of had an idea of who they were. And I look around and I'm seeing Martin. I didn't know Martin, but I knew Martin, Nick Gill, and Keith. And I sit down. They're like, Eric, tell us who you are. And I'm like, oh yeah, hey, I run IT, or I work in IT at G&J Pepsi, and here's what I do, and yada yada yada. And I'm getting like these death glares, right? Like, I'm like, because all the stories I hear are, I'm trying to go to IT and I can't get the licensing, and I'm trying to go to IT and they won't enable these scenarios. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I am like, one, I'm the most hated guy I think in the room at this point. And two, I'm thinking like pure IT individuals, maybe not software developers, because that's a different story, would just cling to this, right? They would be like, oh my God, I can add this skill set as a developer to my repertoire, and I can build applications, I can do server, I can do the full stack because I manage it all. And that's what's going through my mind. I'm like, I got access to Azure SQL, I got the tools, I got it all. I can do it all, and I can build whatever I want. And here I am sitting in a room full of citizen developers who are struggling to get through their IT counterparts, and I'm going, "Oh my gosh, like I missed the boat on this," right? And there's a groundswell, a bottom-up approach that's driving it. Now you're seeing it all over the place, where citizen developers are starting and IT has to react to that. And we're out, I guess, in front of it, and we're saying, hey, if you want, we'll do it. But hey, we're involved. We want to build and bring solutions to the business. We're all about the business, and not about, like I said earlier, protecting, what we think is ours. Because at the end of the day, G&J doesn't sell servers and platforms. We sell soft drinks, and we sell water and teas and sodas, and that's what I'm here to support, is to help support that business. So me, my team, software team, business transformation team, that's what our focus is. So maybe, and again, I'll probably be despised in the community, but even so, I'd say, hey, if the IT was delivering what they needed, they wouldn't have to have this groundswell, and they could deliver those solutions. But you know, good for the citizen developers, and good for Summit and Keith and all of them out there. Alan Chai, who's doing great work. I applaud all of it. I think it's great because I think you start to look at the broader scope of where the industry is going, where technology is going, and the future of work and AI and all of this. And these are creating opportunities for folks that wouldn't normally probably have those opportunities. And
Exactly,
I think it's
exactly.
fantastic. I absolutely love it. So I look forward to what's to come, and I look forward to kind of what G&J, what happens at G&J, and I think there's going to be some really interesting things that happen over the next year or two at G&J that helps bring more of that.
So good, so good. Before we get into quickfire questions, what's your kind of tips or advice to people that are in the same role as you? So they're sitting in the IT org. What's your advice to them specifically around the Power Platform?
I would say don't discount its power. Don't. So I'm talking. I'm just going to speak to the IT and the pro dev too. I would not discount its impact. And both at a technical level and a personnel level, you've seen what that has done for folks like Keith, for Nick Gill, for Summit, and Lauren Taylor, who's a teacher, and the list goes on and on, right? I can name all these fantastic champions, and everybody's doing great work. But don't discount what it does for careers, and don't discount and think that it's just a toy, or it's not, it can't, you can't build and run your business on top of this platform, because it's been proven time and time again. There are numerous stories about pro developers, citizen developers alike, who are building solutions that businesses now run on top of. And I'll tell you, we're doing it at G&J Pepsi. If I took Power Apps away tomorrow, we wouldn't grind to a complete halt, but doing things like people submitting their mileage to get paid for it and integrating with our payment systems, that would be a huge disaster to overcome. Serving our customers and making sure we're following up. I would say don't discount it. I would, in fact, embrace it, because you can work to leverage it to improve your business. So I don't manage that development department any like Dan does, right? So you think the Power Platform fits with him, but I'm using it to manage and help improve my business. So we've built customer survey, my team, and they've done a really great job. That's kind of my role now, is to foster their development. I'm seen as this mentor to some individuals on my team. We're building, like I said, that user lifecycle management, where we went from a quarter of a day heads up on a new hire starting. So a fourth of a day, Mark. Now we fix the process, and now we get 12 days of lead time to set up a new user, get their equipment, get their accounts provisioned, so that when they start, that they have a great experience. We've integrated it with Windows ATP into Power Automate. So if there is an event that occurs, we use Power Automate to create a ticket. We then write a card into Teams so that we get alerted. And that's all happens automatically, integrating with a security system that we have, right? So I'm speaking to both the IT and pro development. Find ways to leverage it yourself. Wrap processes around yourself. Integrate it with your help desk platforms or your support platforms to provide notifications. Find little processes, because we're all stretched for time, especially IT individuals. If you're doing it right, you're stretched for time. And how can you automate things that you don't necessarily need to do on a regular basis? How can you do that to better your business? And then what's the downstream impact of that, right? You can then better your skill set in whatever area you want to go, whether it be leadership or advancing your cloud skill sets or data, whatever you want to go into. So I'd say don't discount it, use it to your advantage. And for the pro devs, leverage it to build quick wins, right? Get a feel for it. You're not going to build like these full stack applications when you can just leverage the Power Platform that's going to create a form that allows somebody to just input 5 fields of data and then dump it into CDS or Excel or Azure SQL or whatever your thing is, and then you can move on, right? Really build it quickly. If you're as good as you say you are, use the Power Platform to knock it out even quicker than any of us IT or citizen developers could do, and then get back to your larger applications, right?
So good, so good. Awesome, man. You've the time's flown by. That was such a good session. So insightful. A lot of good lessons to learn there. Now I'm going to roll into some quick fire questions to wrap up with. These are totally random, and they're not about your work. They're more about you as an individual. So first of all, you ready?
I am ready. I hope so.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I ever received, I was 20 years old. I was working at a ranch in Arizona. It wasn't advice as much as what I observed. I was working at a ranch in Arizona, and I was a bellman. So I did a lot of work around this resort ranch. And when you had these large groups come in, you would be the bellman. You'd take the bags out to their rooms, and you really hustle. And there was a gentleman that was kind of the senior bellman. He had been there for so many years, and he had, and you know, it's in Arizona. If you've ever been to the desert southwest of the United States, Mark, it's hot. So he goes out, he's hustling, he's delivering all these bags, and I'm sitting in the back. I came in for my shift, right, and it was taken over, so it wasn't like I was being lazy. And I watched him walk in, and normally they had like a tip, like basically they built the tip into that for these large groups. And he said, "Oh," and he was the most calm guy, most level-headed demeanor gentleman I'd ever seen. I'm watching this interaction between him and the manager, and manager said, "Hey, it just didn't work out." And he just looked at the manager, this bellman, the senior bellman, just looked at him and said, "Hey, you know what? Sometimes you win some, you lose some." And that stuck with me. I don't know why, because he was, he should have been properly compensated, but what it means is, hey, sometimes you got to roll with the punches, and you got to know that things aren't really going to go your way, but you're going to get it made up to you somewhere else, right? There's going to be something that comes down that you didn't expect, and you're going to get, rewarded for that on the back end, and you can't, throw a fit over something that, maybe is not in the grand scheme of things that big of a deal. So that always jumps to mind when somebody asks about advice. And I could probably go on and on, but
No,
that
it's
one
good. It's good.
comes to
It's
mind.
good. If you could have any celebrity be your best friend, who would you pick?
Wow, Mark Wahlberg. He's I mean, he guy's in every movie. I mean, he does these incredible movies. He's fit. I mean, him, yeah, without a doubt. And Mark Wahlberg, I think would be. I'd probably say, I shamelessly follow him. I love his movies. I don't know why. Mark Wahlberg. I think he's guy's a superhero. Yeah.
Nice. Would you rather have a rewind button or a pause button on life?
I would rather have a pause button, because another piece of advice I received, somebody said only fools trip on what's behind them. So I guess if I had to say, I would pause,
That's good. Yeah.
slow down, and say, am I handling the current situation right? Because the past is the past, and I am here. I'm in this spot talking to you because of all the trials and tribulations that I've gone through in life. I'm sitting here talking to you, Mark. So I can't regret that, right? So
I like it. I like it. I like that saying. Only a fool trips on what's behind them.
only a
That's so
fool
good.
trips on what's behind them.
Yeah. Who's someone you really admire?
Somebody I really admire. Wow. Does it have to be a celebrity? Is it like a
No,
popular
it can be
person?
this can
Or?
be anything. This could be historical, anybody. Could be Jesus if you want.
Yeah, I definitely would go with Jesus. That just seems like kind of the canned answer, right? I would definitely go with him, but I'm trying to think of a non-canned answer. Just people that have had an impact on my life. There's a gentleman that really, when I got started, gave me a shot, and when you think, his name's Shane Judy, and when you think about the people that give you a shot in life, and the guy can do everything across the board in IT. He could build you a cloud platform, turn around, build you an application, set up a storage array. I mean, the guy was just so talented, and to have that when I was young and getting started, absolutely admired who he was and what he did. And he and I are still friends to this day. I don't work for him anymore, but we stay in contact. We're really good friends, and I admire. I think just, and Brian Balzer, who's my current boss, anybody that really preaches people leadership is who I did, that sets a really good example. Brian's a really good example. And, there's been some leaders in the past at G&J Pepsi that come to mind that, that taking an interest in your career and your personal development and pride of that servant leadership. Those are the ones that I admire the most. And there's far too many to list, but those are the
I
ones
like
that I
it.
admire the most.
What's the last random thing that made you smile?
The last random thing that made me smile. I don't know if it was random, but I'm off this week, and I'm watching if you've ever watched Dave Chappelle's comedy skit, it's probably more offensive than anything, but it's just the things he says is so random. It made me laugh. Or I actually was playing video game. I don't get to play video games that much, but just the way people are on video games and the things they say, it just, man, I guess I'm a degenerate in some ways. I got a weird sense of humor. So I think those that know me, that hopefully maybe they'll listen, they would be like, yeah, I would agree with that. So I don't have a great random thing. I just
No,
probably
that's
more
good.
degeneracy
good.
than anything.
What do you believe in despite having no proof of it?
I absolutely believe there is a God. There is a higher being, without a doubt. No doubt.
Awesome, man. It's been great to have you on the show. Any recommendations for a guest for future podcasts?
Yeah, absolutely. Do I have to pick one, or can I name a few people?
You can name a few
is there
people,
like
of
limits
course.
or anything? Okay.
No, there's no limits.
And I'm trying to think of the guests that you've had past, so I don't want to. And I listen to your show regularly, Mark. So
just anything that pops in your mind, like I'd like to hear what this guy had to say or this person had to say.
Have you interviewed Ryan Cunningham?
Yeah, sure, I have.
You have? Okay, shoot. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, it was a year ago. I'll probably get him in rotation again for next year, all being well.
Have you interviewed Richard Riley, who's on the marketing side for the Power Platform, the whole Dynamics team? Rich Riley is really good. I would say Nick Gill, if you haven't interviewed him yet, I would certainly have him. Emma Cooper comes to mind, who's on the Power Platform, so the Power App side, product owner, I believe. I've presented with her. She does an amazing job. Komal, and I'm going to butcher her last name, but Komal Tektungati? Komal let's just say Komal at Heathrow, who works, so Summit works for her. I would have her on. She wins a ton of awards. She's a fantastic and lovely human being to talk to. Martin Lee, Lauren Taylor, all come to mind, who are all Power Apps champs. Alan Shy at Schlumberger, I think, would be fantastic. Guy builds beautiful applications, a really good guy.
Enough.
Kent Weir, one more. Kent Weir.
He's been on.
He's been in. Oh, dang it. How'd I miss? Okay, I'm going to have to look that up. All
right. Eric, mate, that has been an awesome full-on packed hour. Thanks so much for that. If people want to kind of connect with you on any social media channel, you're on Twitter, LinkedIn, anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Rowdy on Twitter at rowdybrownsfan.com, not the most professional one, but on LinkedIn, I think it's just, you can look me up, Eric McKinney. There's probably a bunch of them. I think it's Eric McKinney and put in G&J Pepsi. I don't know what my username actually is on LinkedIn, but you can find me pretty easily.
Hey, thanks again for listening to today's Power Platform Show. Full show notes can be found for this episode at nz365guy.com/172. I'm your host, Business Applications MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If you've got any feedback or you would like to hear a guest on the show, reach out to me. Let me know. Hit me up. LinkedIn messages are often the best way to get hold of me. Send me a private message, recommend a guest and why I should have them on here. I would love to hear from you. Bye for now.